to fight, I came for war. I came to win, to settle the score. I came for the throne, to take it all. The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Cool lifestyle 4x4s were once a very small niche, but now no longer, as the waiting list for the new Thar stretching into 6-8 months still proves. But of course, the Thar was in a class of its own. Now it has a rival, a genuine homegrown rival in this, the all-new Gurkha. So how does the Gurkha stack up against the Thar? That is what we're going to find out in this video, and we've got a couple of really cool tests lined up. So before we go ahead, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with like-minded enthusiasts, and don't forget to hit that bell icon and stay subscribed to the Evo India channel, because we've got a really cool adventure coming up with the Thar. But now diving into this test, and the first is on styling. Now styling is personal, that I admit, but we are going to take a public vote, and for that we've got the entire Evo India team out here. So the team, I've been checking out both the 4x4s, and now we're going to take a vote. So those in favor of the Gurkha, come to the right of me. Those in favor of the Thar, to the left. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 versus 4. So 9 versus 4 in favor of the Gurkha. I guess because it's new, that's why you guys like it.
Because this is Indian G-Wagon.
Well, so people prefer the Indian G-Wagon. So on the styling front, the Gurkha, it wins this round. Getting into the Gurkha is in stark contrast to the Thar. You actually get in very unconventionally from the rear. And actually it's easy to get into the Gurkha. And once you get in, there is a fair bit of space out here. So there's a good amount of knee room, a lot of headroom. I could be wearing a top hat and I'd still be comfortable. Lots of glass area, so it is airy, it doesn't feel claustrophobic. Lots of shoulder room. You have these adjustable armrests, captain seats, so it is very comfortable. Great view up front also, because you're sitting so high up. The seats of the Gurkha are also not positioned very close to the floor, so you have good under thigh support. You're not sitting on the floor, and despite this having space for 4, it also has a pretty decent and usable boot. Only thing, I need somebody to close that door now. Only downside, it only has a lap belt, not a 3-point seat belt. So that is a negative. But otherwise, sitting in the back of the Gurkha is far more comfortable and far more spacious than the Thar. The Thar and the Gurkha are comfortable for 2. But what about the other 2? Let's find out. So getting into the Thar, this is a 2-door. Even the Gurkha, it is a 3-door. But you have to flip down the front passenger seat, and then it's not really the most easy way to get into the Thar. The rear seat back angle, that can be adjusted. So once you get in here, it is okay. It's not too bad. The seat in place, there is actually a lot of knee room. There is a decent amount of headroom, but it feels a bit claustrophobic. And in terms of shoulder room, there isn't much, because you're sitting very close to your fellow passenger, because the wheel well, that intrudes into the space at the back. So not the most comfortable, but once you're here, it is fine. Also the seat, you don't have as much under thigh support as the Gurkha. There's not enough space for your feet to slot in under the front seats, and you have a proper 3-point seat belt, which is a big plus point in my books. Now it's time for our world famous 4x4 ride quality test, and Atish, he's the unwitting passenger.
So test 1 is in the Gurkha. I've got 2 glasses of water. The first thing we need to do is take the right turn out of the gate. Thankfully it's a narrow turn, so Suresh has to drive very slowly and nothing's falling out. But after that, we accelerate. The Gurkha is not a very quick accelerator, so not too much flew out of that. But the ride quality on the Gurkha, pretty impressive. It does get kicked around slightly. This is so typical of these body on frame cars, but otherwise it's pretty absorptive. There are a lot of ditches and ruts and bumps on these roads, rocks, but it's doing a good job of absorbing most of it. Back onto a longer straight. We're passing the animals now. We've got goats over here. We've got a couple of chickens. Suresh, why does the chicken cross the road?
For lunch.
It was our lunch, but concentrate. Try not to get my pants wet. I'm failing miserably because Suresh, well, he thinks also he's on a rally stage. Oh my god. Yep. The Gurkha, it takes corners fairly well. Doesn't feel too quick around them, but it rotates nicely, huh, Suresh? Back onto the straight. Now this is the long straight back towards the gate. It's fairly flat, but we've got 2 jumps, so I'm not too worried right now. We've got 2 jumps coming up. The first one's here. Okay, not too bad. This is the second one. Not too bad. Right, there we go. Back into the gate, and here's what I have to report. Little more than half a glass in either hand, which I think is impressive. How does it fare against the Thar? We're gonna have to do that test in the Thar and see. As for me, I'm wet.
Yeah, boy.
And now it's time for the Thar. Adish, you ready?
I mean, as ready as I can be.
Let's go.
Okay, now repeat performance in the Thar. We've got 2 full glasses of water. The first thing is the narrow gap through the gate, and now we accelerate. Yep, and the Thar is a lot quicker when it accelerates, which is why a lot of water is spilling out of it. But the ride quality as well, it's a lot harsher. You feel a lot more of the bumps in the cabin. Already a fair amount of the water has spilled out, but it does feel planted in these little fast turns. Now we've got a right turn coming. A little slow through there because it's narrow, but quick on the gas again. Little bumps do upset it. Again, round the corners. It does take these little corners faster. It feels a little more stable. There's less roll. But there's some chinking glasses in here. Suresh, not a rally stage. Okay, but back on the gas. See these little bumps, these little ruts in the road, right? This unsettles the Thar a lot more than it does in the Gurkha. The Gurkha feels super planted. It absorbs so much of the road. Oops, oversteer. Not good for the amount of water in the glass. That's okay. Now we're on the final run down the straight, and these are the 2 big jumps. 1 and 2. Okay, a lot harsher in the Thar. Water's still falling out of it. It's that unsettling. But we've reached the end. The amount of water in the glasses is less than half. So I think we've got the Gurkha as the winner, but let's compare it with the other glasses and see. Here you go.
So this is the water left after driving around in the Thar. So that's the Gurkha, and on the outside is the Thar. And that's a clear representation of the Gurkha's superior ride quality compared to the Thar. I'll show you that properly. So half a glass left in the Gurkha, little less than half, maybe a quarter glass left in the Thar. So glass half full in the Gurkha. Scientific verdict on ride quality. Drive the Gurkha, and the first thing that you notice is that the low speed ride is frankly astonishing. I don't know how they've done that, but you go over these rough patches and this takes it so well. It's very good. And even when you take in now some badly rutted trails, you can tackle it actually much faster than the Thar because it pitches around less. And in fact, the kick that you get in the Thar, the rear suspension, of course, everything is coil sprung these days, no leaf springs, but you don't get that kick in the rear with the Gurkha. This is so much more planted, so much more stable. See those ruts? It just takes it so well. Unbelievable. And that makes it really good to drive around on all kinds of roads. You don't have to slow down for anything. It's amazing. And I'm saying this with all honesty, I have driven this before, but now this is the first time I'm actually spending a week with the Gurkha. And now after a week, I'm even more impressed with the way it takes bad roads in its stride. So if you want to take rough tracks in your stride every single day, the Gurkha, it actually could be the best daily driver you could get your hands on. Honestly, the Gurkha, you sit so much higher, you have a much better view of the road ahead, you get this king of the world feel in the Gurkha. And after the Gurkha, when you sit in the Thar, Thar feels really small, cool. But this also is not so cool. The steering wheel, it is very utilitarian in terms of the design, the feel, the dials, the cabin, the dash, this aftermarket Kenwood stereo. It has got Apple CarPlay, so that's a good point. But the way it is positioned, there's lots of reflections on it. You can hardly see anything when you're wearing sunglasses in the day. This is all very, very basic. Though they have listened to us and our criticisms of the Thar. So it has got these grab handles on the A-pillar to make ingress egress easier. Getting in at the back is easier, though rather unconventional. Force Motors has made sure that it has all the equipment, so it even has a tire pressure gauge, but this is like an aftermarket unit stuck on out there. But it has it, so I give them credit to that. It also has these cool accessories. So this windshield guard, that is an accessory, but it looks really cool. The snorkel is standard. This is the only vehicle in the country that you get with a standard snorkel. And that also means it has a better water wading capability. So when it gets flooded in Bombay in the rains, the Gurkha will go a little further than the Thar. Other bits like the ladder and all that, those are aftermarket parts, but it looks cool. And Force Motors has resisted the urge to slap on 1 million badges on the Gurkha. In fact, there is not one Force badge on the Gurkha, though they've compensated by not a 4x4 but a 4x4x4 badge. So they have tried. You got to give Force Motors due credit. They are a very, very, very small auto manufacturer. They are India's largest van manufacturer, but as a car maker, Force Motors' experience is very, very limited, if you can call the Gurkha a car. So it's a game effort, which I will give them a lot of credit considering their budgets and the resources they can deploy into something like this. Of course, nothing is perfect, and with the Gurkha, the first area of criticism is, of course, this engine. Now, this is the OM616 engine, and if that sounds familiar, that's on two accounts. One, it is a Mercedes-derived engine, and two, it has been in the country for decades. 2.5 decades? This 2.6-litre engine has been around for very, very, very long, and it makes only 88 bhp, which is not enough considering the size and weight of the Gurkha. It does not have a 120 kilometers per hour buzzer because its top speed is 120 kilometers per hour. The steering, it is vague. It's not the sharp steerings that we are used to these days. Even when you compare it to the Thar, this is too vague, and it's like you're piloting a yacht. You're also sitting high up, so the center of gravity is higher. So at 100, 110, that's about the speeds that you want to do. That's the speeds at which you feel safe. It's also not as maneuverable or easy to drive. You got to put a little effort into the Gurkha, but those are the cons to weigh against the pros, and it has a lot of pros. The styling, for instance, you park this next to the Thar, nobody looks at the Thar, everybody looks at the Gurkha. They've really nailed it on that front. This is a ride quality champion. We're not doing any hardcore off-road testing this time round, but I can tell you, in terms of all the off-road angles, like the departure, ramp over, all of those angles, these two are more or less the same. The Thar has got slightly more ground clearance, but ultimately, at the very limit, when the skill of the driver counts for much more than the abilities of the vehicle itself, the Gurkha, it'll actually get you further because it has these twin locking differentials. So when you have a wheel up in there or two wheels up in there, just lock the differential the rear and the front, and it'll make sure that even if one wheel has traction, the Gurkha will pull you out of whatever mess you've gotten yourself into. So ultimate off-road chops, this has the equipment to go far ahead. And of course, you got to remember that this is the base for the Army's light strike vehicles. Those 4x4s which are dropped out of helicopters, which are used for advanced strike actions behind enemy borders. The Gurkha is the base for that. And that's not marketing speak. That is the truth, the honest truth. Now the Thar, I've driven it all over the place. I know it like the back of my hand. This is in fact my long-term test car, and this is something that I use on an everyday basis. Be it commuting in Pune, doing our frequent Mumbai-Pune trips, using it as a support car on shoots. This Thar has done it all. One thing I have to point out, the wheels on this Thar, these are not stock wheels, these are aftermarket wheels. These wheels, the fuel off-road wheels, are made by Wheels India, and that is on test, so that's not standard. But apart from that, this is box standard. We've also got a boombox in it because I love my tunes loud and hard. But otherwise, the Thar, it really is just so well turned out. Somebody like me who has access to a lot of cars, and I don't mean to boast, but I'm really fortunate to have access to a lot of cars, but I use this as my primary mode of transport, and that just tells you what a brilliant machine this Thar is. The driving position is also very good. The visibility is good, not out the back, but to drive, the visibility is good. The A-pillars are narrower than the Gurkhas. So in traffic, it's actually a little more manageable. It is easier to drive, no mistaking that. And it is easier to live with. So if you're looking for a 4x4 to be your daily driver, I would definitely recommend the Thar. Main reason also, it's got an automatic gearbox. Now the Gurkha, they are developing an automatic gearbox. When it'll come on stream, no idea, but it is under development. So in terms of the way the chassis has been turned out, the Thar is damn good. But it does not ride as well as the Gurkha. The low speed ride of the Gurkha, oh, that's something else. That's spectacular. In terms of features, equipment, the Thar is better turned out than the Gurkha. Now, the infotainment screen, it is positioned much better. This is not an aftermarket infotainment screen. This is well integrated. It has CarPlay, Android Auto. Of course, the Gurkha also has all of that. But this screen, you can see it even in bright sunlight when you're wearing sunglasses. It also has those adventure stats, so it shows you the roll angle, pitch angles, all those cool things it shows you out here. No wireless CarPlay, but then that's really not required on something so hardcore as these vehicles. But overall, in terms of the features, the kit, the way it is turned out, the Thar is one step ahead of the Gurkha, and it is easier to maneuver. Plus, you have the performance. But performance, come on, let's test out the performance properly. Let's put it through a drag race. And now the drag race, Gurkha versus the Thar. Now I know this is a bygone conclusion. There is a 40 bhp difference, 50 Newton meters difference. So the gap is huge. And that's why we are doing this in a kind of off-roadish territory so that the odds are evened out a bit. The Thar, that's got an automatic gearbox. This has got a manual gearbox. And now, no ESP to switch off. So that's cool. Ready? 3, 2, 1. The Gurkha actually finds more traction off the line, so launches slightly better, but then that's about it. The Thar's gone. The Thar's absolutely gone. This, it just revs to 3000 RPM and that's about it. So it launches a little harder than the Thar, especially the Thar automatic, but after that the Gurkha is done for. This needs a more powerful engine. Now this test could go two ways. If you're looking for practicality, the Thar, it is more practical. And I don't believe I'm calling the Thar practical, but in this test it is. It is also got more options, so you get more powertrain options, petrol, diesel, manual, automatic. It is very capable on the highways, it is quick, you can do daily commutes with it, it can really do it all. But that's not to say that the Gurkha is not sorted. In fact, the Gurkha, it actually tugs at your heartstrings a little bit more. Just look at it. It looks so cool. The minute you look at it, you fall in love with it, and it actually towers over the Thar. Also, it has its strengths. It's got more space inside. The backseat passengers in the Gurkha don't feel claustrophobic. The low-speed ride, it is better. But of course, the engine, it is not as powerful. So on the highway, it is not as fun to drive as a Thar. But then put all that aside. This test is a celebration of cool lifestyle vehicles made right here in India that are affordable, and they really do everything that you need. You don't really have to buy a practical mid-size or compact SUV anymore. You can go for either of these two and they will really do the job very, very well, while putting a massive smile on your face as well as on the faces of everybody that you pass by on your daily commute. Now the only thing that's left is that Jimny. And I hope that Jimny is coming this year. I really hope.
This is me in the passenger seat, and this is what you can see over here. The dashboard, slightly wet. The floor, a little wet. My jeans, look at this, drenched.
On which they prefer in terms of the styling. So, guys, those are So don't go and buy out those regular small compact SUVs. You know, buy one of these and